This is one of my favorite pieces ever. And the reason that it's one of my favorite pieces is that it has the origins of the art in ancient Rome. It has the origin of the mold with the aristocracy of the Renaissance in Florence, and it has just been found and is going to be made for you in Italy. So this is a beautiful, beautiful cuff, and it's going to be in your choice of rose, white, or yellow. And when you look at this, this is actually a scene from what they would call the games of ancient Rome. So in ancient Rome, the way that people would buy, the way that the politicians and the wealthy would buy the favor of the people is called bread and circuses. That was the joke. How many days of circuses did you buy for the people? How much bread did you buy for the people? And part of the circuses were things like staged reenactments of battles. They would do, of course, there were things like gladiatorial games, and there were parades, and there were all kinds of different games. At one point, they even would fill the Colosseum with water and build ships and have naval battles in the Colosseum. The grander your games and the more days that your games went, the more the populace would support you and vote for you if you wanted to be consul, right? So this is from those days when they would win the favor of the people with bread and circuses. Here you have your choice of any of the three colors, and they're stunning. Now I want to let you know that these are actually going to be done from molds that come from the Renaissance. And these are, hold on, I think I have that upside down. These are actually molds that came from the Renaissance. So what would happen during the Renaissance? And the Renaissance was a time of dramatic change, very, very much like today, where things are changing very rapidly. Things in the Renaissance were changing very rapidly. The politics were changing. The global picture was changing. The influence of one society on another was changing. The opportunities were changing. Everything was changing during the Renaissance very, very quickly. And during that time, the wealthiest people in Florence during the Renaissance would hire the artists and the jewelers to create custom bangles for them in gold. And these bangles would show the people what their interests were. So imagine if we made those bangles today. I guess they'd have video games. So they would have, if you were into horses, if you were part of the, the equestrian level and you had horses, then maybe your bangle would have horses. If you loved dogs, maybe your bangle would have dogs. If you loved, your home, but it was whatever your interests were, a custom piece of art would be created for you, and a jeweler would make a custom bangle for you, and all those bangles were in gold. They were worn by the men, they were worn by the women, and they're one of the most noticeable marks of the upper families, the wealthy, the accomplished people, the people in Florence who would walk the streets during the Renaissance and were really making things change at the rate that they were changing. So hundreds of years, these molds sat in the basement of this building in Florence. They sat in the basement of a jewelry shop very close to the Ponte Vecchio, which is still one of the centers of the world of jewelry today. And what happened was, after centuries of sitting there, Paola, who you met, who we adore, and she's brought us so many beautiful pieces, Paola was in this jewelry shop, and she was down in the basement, and she found these molds. And the gentleman who owned this jewelry store didn't really know what to do with them. Paola did. She said, hey, I'll take those off your hands. She bought every mold that she could find. And so now you have a beautiful piece of art inspired by the games of ancient Rome. You have a custom mold created by the wealthiest in Florence during the Renaissance. And you have one of the most amazingly talented jewelry designers of our day in Italy finding the perfect factory, working with them on how to make these molds exactly as they were made then. These will be in silver, theirs were in gold, and she's going to have them made for you. I cannot tell you how much I love them. I am so excited to bring them to you. These are truly a piece of history from numerous points. This is something no one else has had done before. This is something that she's doing for us first, and this is something that I think is one of the most amazing conversation pieces, one of the most amazing collectibles ever. So I know you're gonna love it. I cannot wait for you to get it, and Paola is gonna make sure that the factory makes it for you by hand, just like they used to centuries ago.